Well, hello. It's Thursday. It's 2:30, and that means it is Infant Feeding Facebook Live. So I'm here, level 7 on the spires of the Women's Centre. Hopefully some people will join me. So I can hear the buzzers going at the moment behind me. I've just stopped. Someone's got it, obviously. But I'm hoping that you've all been thinking about lots of lovely questions over the week since I was last here. As I'm on my own again for another couple of weeks, and then Naomi's going to join me. Again, looking forward to having her back. I said, and I think the last time she'll be off cycling around the countryside, hopefully. But I've had some lovely clinic appointments this morning, which have generated a few questions. So I'm hoping to start seeing some people coming up that I will also ask questions. So, and I'm just trying to get it up on my screen because it just makes it a lot easier if I can do it here, so I can see if any questions are posted. Brilliant! I can start seeing people coming. So as you join, I'll just remind you, this is the infant feeding session, and I'm Alex. I'm the infant feeding lead here at the John Radcliffe. I'm one of a very small team. We are me and Naomi, who often does this with me, Sarah Markley Brown, who's off skiing at the moment, and Tamara Lotz, who's on a day off at the moment, and we have a lovely maternity support worker called Emma Kentish, who, if you phone our office, might be the one who answers your call, and if you have an antenatal call, she'll be the one who organises it. She'll organise it for us to chat to you. So these sessions are here for you to ask the questions that you want to have the answers to. No question is too stupid. So, if you're thinking it, someone else is thinking it. So just, have a think about what you might want to know about feeding. As I said, I've had a lovely clinic this morning. I've seen 3 mums in clinic this morning, and one of them, we spoke on the phone yesterday, and she said that she'd been watching these sessions, and I said to her, well, give me some suggestions, because we always need something to start with on these before you all get going with your questions. So she actually posted out to her NCT group, and they came back with some answers, so some questions, I should say. I'm going to tackle those first before I do anything else, and hope that those that pose the questions are already watching. Otherwise you'll have to rewind and watch it another time, but that's great because that looks like bigger viewer numbers for me. I think these babies all vary in age, and certainly the baby that I saw this morning was 6 weeks, and I think they're up to about 11 weeks, and that's often the case, isn't it? If you've been on any antenatal classes, that's often the case, that there's a spectrum of ages and you're all facing slightly different issues at different times. If you're the front runner, then you're the one who's on your own, having this, a bit like the first child in a family. You're the one who's paving the way for the others to follow, and they can benefit from your knowledge. So the issues that you face will change as time goes on. So one of the questions was about an 11-week-old baby having frequent and short feeds. How could they be encouraged to have longer feeds? I'm going to go back to my default, which always starts, is just make sure that positioning and attachment is as good as you can get it. A baby that's going on well is able to milk the breast well. They get a better sort of let down of the milk, they get that better balance of the fattier first part of the milk, they get the waterier first part of the milk, they get access to the fatty latter part of the milk, and that way they are getting a bigger mouthful, they're getting a bigger sort of balance of the milk that they need to settle them. Now, but remember that breastfeeding is way more than just food. Babies come to the breast because they like it, they want to be there, they love that closeness and comfort that breastfeeding gives them. So when a baby's looking to feed, it's a bit like us, eating a chocolate biscuit. You're feeling a bit meh, and a chocolate biscuit will just hit the spot, or a cup of tea. And bear in mind, everything that goes in their mouth is from you. So look at the day that you have, and how many times do you put something in your mouth? I just had my lunch. I'm eating my lunch between clinic. I'm doing this. So, and this morning I've already had a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, some water, soup, bowl of cereals, and I'm already at 5 and we're only halfway through the day. So thinking about frequent feeds, it's not unsurprising that our babies are coming for frequent feeds, because you are meeting their needs. It will get better, things do get better. And you'll find, they're constantly changing. What people find is that those changes sort of come through gently, and you suddenly realise that, oh, okay, baby's going a bit longer than they used to. Or, oh, I can rely on the baby sleeping this time of the day because they're doing that quite frequently. There's a La Leche comment. It's on a poster that we have up in the hospital, and it says, from the chaos, gentle rhythms begin to appear. And that's very much what it's like in the beginning. And whilst 11 weeks is nigh on 3 months, that's still fairly early days in a baby's life. You know, they're still finding their way and those rhythms are appearing. So can you extend those feeds? Well, you could try a sling. You know, if it's not food that they're after specifically, sometimes babies have their needs met with a sling, so that closeness and comfort is met. So you could, you know, see, as long as your baby is gaining appropriately. You know, if you've got a baby that is just gaining enough weight and they're feeding frequently, then that's what they need to do. If you've got a baby that is gaining really well, and we talk about a girl gaining minimum of 20 grams on a daily basis and a boy gaining a minimum of sort of around 30 grams on a daily basis. So if you've got a baby that is gaining appropriately, going up those centiles just like they're meant to, then actually we don't need to worry so much. If you've got a baby that is just about gaining enough, then those frequent feeds are very important, and that's how your baby's getting their daily intake, so I wouldn't be backing off. So have a look at your particular situation and gauge whether you can be trying to eat those feeds out. But we're always talking about responsive feeding, meeting the baby's needs. We talk about how important it is for that baby's brain development. Every time you interact with your baby, every time you look at them, talk to them, you know, have them close and stroke them, and all those things you do with the baby, whether it's you, your partner, parents, grandparents, whatever, every time you do that, you're boosting that baby's brain with oxytocin, because the oxytocin is released and it builds a baby's brain. So it's really valuable what you're doing. Whilst I appreciate a baby that is feeding a lot can be very challenging, you are doing an amazing job. So have a look at that. With regard to bottle feeding, we talked about you know, when could you think about introducing a bottle? That was something we chatted about. Babies are different. Some babies take to bottles, no problem. Other babies go, no way, Jose, not having that, don't like it. If you think that you want your baby to take a bottle, we would probably suggest that you don't leave it too late. And I say too late, I think you're thinking pre-6 weeks. So, you know, if you've got a baby that's happy to take a bottle at 6 weeks and you know they're going to need to be able to take a bottle later, you might be going back to work. Don't drop them entirely. Do a bottle maybe every day or every other day. Keep that bottle going. Keep that baby capable of taking a bottle. I know people are worried about nipple confusion and teat confusion. Well, actually, a lot of it is to do with flow. If the baby's getting all that it needs from the breast and can cope with taking a bottle, they're going to be very happy to be at the breast because that's where they would prefer to be. So from that point of view, if you think, I'm going to have to go to work and I'm going to need them to take a bottle, then maybe introducing a bottle sooner rather than later might be helpful. We know some babies really don't take to bottles. They may have had them at the beginning, they have a long period of not having any, and then you want to go back to work, and lo and behold, you can't get them to take a bottle. And it can be very, very stressful for mother and baby. So introducing a bottle, you know, if you think it's something you need to do, start thinking about it. And I know that this was an 11-week-old they were thinking about, so, you know, maybe start thinking about it once in a while. We would always want you to be doing paced bottle feeding, and I know we talk about this almost every session. By the way, I can see questions coming through, and I'm so delighted, and I'll get onto them in a moment. Thinking about the paced bottle feeding, so we want a baby that is upright, in close, head tip back. The bottle is going to brush down the lips. You're going to brush down, you're going to tell the baby that the bottle is there. They're going to open their mouth and you're going to introduce the bottle. So they're going to brush down the lips, they open their mouth and you introduce the bottle into the top of the mouth. We do not worry about air from the point of view of the teat. We just need to make sure that the end of the teat is full of milk. We don't need to worry about up here. And I know that it's been a real thing, people worrying about babies taking in too much air. If there's an air bubble here, that's fine. We don't want air bubbles down there. So you're going to be, rather than holding the bottle like this, which is what people always used to do, you're going to hold it like that. And if you watched, you can see it's dripping. Is it visible on camera? It was just a minute ago. Let's see if it goes. Yeah, here it goes. So that's quite, this bottle's been used for quite a while, so it's actually not dripping very quickly, but sometimes they'll really drip. And if you think about it, the baby's got to feed at that speed. If you bring the bottle to here, the baby controls the flow, and that's why it's very important that we do what we call paced or responsive bottle feeding. This stops you overfeeding a baby that's being fed with a bottle. It's the action of the bottle, not what's in it, that is the risk of overfeeding. So having a baby in close, upright, brush down, because you're reinforcing what the baby's got to do. You're telling the baby, open your mouth, and they'll go, nah. Introduce the bottle, keep it horizontal, and the baby will take the feed at the speed that they want to. And they will be much better able to take pauses when they need to, because if it's upright they can't, and they're much better able to say to you, no, I've had enough now, I don't need any more. And just because it's in the bottle, we don't finish it. We let the baby tell us. And this all goes with responsiveness, whether that's responsive that you're feeding the baby when they're looking for it, or you're feeding the baby because you're feeling full, or you're going to let the baby dictate to you how much food they want, which is all part of responsiveness. Another question was about a baby that was a 5-week-old baby, and this goes back to responsive. It fits in perfectly. In fact, they all fit with responsiveness and relationship building. The other question was a 5-week-old baby that is sleeping for up to 5 hours at night. Now, as long as that baby is gaining weight appropriately, pooing and peeing appropriate to their age, i.e. minimum of 2 yellow stools a day, 6 heavy wet nappies a day, and gaining weight and following their centile, then we don't worry. That's all part of responsive feeding. So we know that some babies will have periods of time where they do lots of feeds in a row, and then they'll have a period of time where they have a longer gap, and that's fine. And I think if your baby's gaining appropriately, the mummy who asked this question, then actually be grateful and take it, enjoy it, enjoy those 5 hours. Maybe don't tell too many people because they'll be jealous. You know, enjoy those 5 hours of sleep. And actually, bear in mind that babies don't stick to routine. So whilst your baby's doing it now, that will probably change. And we often find as babies get a bit older, they start to wake a bit more as well. So don't be surprised if that happens. But I would enjoy it while you have the opportunity to get a little bit more sleep, as long as you're getting enough in for the rest of the day. I always think about it as a 24-hour clock, and your baby needs on average about 750 mils, and it might take it in some bigger feeds and some smaller feeds and have bigger gaps at times and smaller gaps at others. But as long as they've taken in that amount of milk within that period of time, they've done what they need to do, and we don't worry about them. So I hope that reassures. I hope I've covered all the questions. If I've missed any of them, and if any of you are watching from the MCT group that put the questions in, let me know. I think I've covered it. We talked about offering a bottle at 11 weeks, definitely give it a go. Whether we can get babies at 11 weeks to go for sort of longer gaps between feeds, have a look, and as I said, that very much depends on how your baby's doing. If they're gaining really well, then yes, you probably can with a bit of cuddling or sling wearing, but if they're not, then they need that food. And remember, feeding is much more than just food. And we talked about responsible bottle feeding and the 5-week. Right, I think I've covered those questions, hopefully. But let me know if I haven't. Let me see. I know I can see some stuff coming through. So, I think I was a bit excited. I think it's only one. So Jessica has written, a massive thank you for suggesting the Abingdon Breastfeeding Cafe. I went today and they were amazing. I weighed James and he's gained a good amount of weight. We also tried a different position and got a really good latch and gained some great tips. Brilliant. They are fantastic. Sue Richards, who is there, and Jackie are brilliant. There are others as well, Sophie, and I'm sorry, and Joe. I know that I'm just trying to think who else is there, and I don't know all of them, but I do know quite a lot of them. As I was saying this morning to one of the mothers in clinic, the breastfeeding world, the infant feeding world is quite small. We do know a lot of each other. So the Oxfordshire Breastfeeding Support, us, the health visitor team that work with feeding, Abingdon Breastfeeding Cafe, we all know each other. We work quite closely, and that's the way that we can offer a joined up service that we hopefully means that what we're offering you is sort of consistent support, that we're not going off at tangents, all offering something slightly different, and that we are helping you in that way. So it's, we come from very similar backgrounds, very similar attitudes to feeding and ethos about feeding. So that's lovely, Jessica. That's really, really nice. So I can see that there's quite a few people watching, so have a think about those questions that you might have. we really value anything you put up there, because obviously if you're thinking it, someone else is thinking it. Now, I know we often get a lot of antenatal mums, so thinking about the lack of antenatal classes at the moment. NCT have obviously restarted, because that was an NCT group that put those questions in, and the mother that I saw this morning had been on NCT. But I know that within the hospital we were struggling to reintroduce antenatal provision for parents for numerous reasons, and obviously one of them is staffing, because we're still quite badly hit with staff being off with COVID. So can I remind you that we do have a series of videos available that cover the basic things about infant feeding. So we cover why skin to skin is so important. So skin to skin contact. If you haven't had your baby already, go and have a look around about the 9 steps. So it's what the baby does, the 9 stages after the baby's born. We have if I can find it, we have a handout which is going to be back to front, I'm so sorry, but it'll give you an idea. So that first hour after birth, it's known as the magical hour by some, or the golden hour by others. The reason that it has all these names is because that period of time is absolutely crucial for the baby's learning. A baby is born with the heightened sort of learning capacity, and that first feed, that first skin-to-skin contact, is a time where it's of priming. So it's priming the baby's brain. This is what my mother's like. This is what her breasts are like. This is how I'm going to breastfeed. So babies who can go through that have the best chances of going forward and breastfeeding well. I'm not saying that babies who don't feed well. They do, many do, but this is the best start that a baby can have. So when we talk about it, this is one of the leaflets that we have, and there's some of them around on the walls, and you can look it up. And as I said, it's called the magical hour, the first hour after birth. A baby's 9 instinctive stages. So when a baby's born, the first thing they'll do is usually cry, or at least take a very nice big deep breath, and they pink up. Babies, as you're probably aware, are born quite a sort of a deep bluey purpley colour, and then they pink up beautifully. They go. It's amazing to watch. It's one of the most fabulous things when a baby's born, to see them pink up really nicely. And then they tend to relax. So we've gone from a baby that's just been born to a baby that's relaxing against their mum. So they're there, skin to skin. Baby's got only a nappy on, if anything. In fact, at that point, won't have anything on. And mum has got an open front, so she might have a gown on that she's opened up. Ideally, she's got her bra off, because they tend to get in the way, and she's ready to do skin to skin. And then a baby will start to rouse, and they start to look. And they start looking around, and bear in mind, babies are aware of light and dark, and they've got a cute sense of smell. They start to move around, that's activity, and then they might rest, and they can rest at numerous points over this period of time. And then if they're given the opportunity, they'll crawl. So a baby who is born and placed down below the breast will start to work their way up. If you have a look at global health media videos, it's called, literally, as I've just said, global health media videos. They're fabulous, and they show on the one is breastfeeding in the hours after birth is one of the videos. It's just beautiful, and it shows 3 babies just being born, placed on their mother's tummies, and they work their way to the breast. These babies have doing very instinctive looking for the breast. As I said, they're able to see light and dark, and they've got very acute smell. The smell of the amniotic fluid on their hands is the same smell as you're excreting if you are pregnant, from those little bumps you've got around your areola. So you've got little things that are called Montgomery's tubercles. I presume not Montgomery named them first, but Montgomery's tubercles. So you've got these little bumps, and I'm sure you are all aware of them, little bumps all around, like little sort of glands, and they secrete a fluid, and it smells like your amniotic fluid. So this is like a scent trail for the baby, so they're coming looking for it. What a baby will then do is work their way to it. I'm going to read it in Spanish, that's not much help for me. So they're going to crawl towards the breast, and then when they're at the breast, what they'll do is they'll be there, and they'll put their mouth around it, and they'll try above and below, around the side, and they'll lick, and eventually they'll put their head back, take a big mouthful, and go on. And that's what you can see in these videos really clearly. They're fabulous. Once that baby's gone on, they'll have a feed, I get caught Spanish again. They'll have a feed, they'll suckle, and eventually they'll go to sleep. Now the reason that we think about these 9 stages and why they're so important is if at some point, maybe 4 or 5 or 6, we take that baby off and we go and put them on the scales, or we take that baby off because somebody else wants to give the baby a cuddle or put some clothes on the baby, then we are interrupting it and the baby goes back to number 1. It's a bit like a game of snakes and ladders. So you've taken the baby off, you put the baby back, it doesn't go back to 5 where you removed it, it goes back to 1 and it's going to work its way through again. But the problem is the baby will go to sleep within about an hour and a half after birth, and that's the overriding factor, is the sleep, because number 9 is sleep. 8 is feeding, 9 is sleep. So once they've gone back to the beginning, they trying to work their way through and eventually they'll fall asleep. They may not get to suckling. So when you're writing your birth preferences or your birth plans, have a think about skin to skin, and ideally what you're looking for is immediate, uninterrupted skin to skin contact until after the first feed. And that's what we would recommend when we do our antenatal calls with mothers who might be called, and we may be talking to them because they've had feeding problems last time, and that we're trying to preempt them and have a very different experience this time. Then we are saying to them, please put on your birth plan, I want immediate and uninterrupted skin to skin contact. Get your partner involved, whoever's going to be your birth partner, get them to be your advocate, because most everything, with the exception of weighing, can be done after the baby has fed. So please don't get your, please make sure your babies stay with you. You've got an advocate there to say, no, the baby's staying until after the feed, and then the baby can be weighed. Our staff know this. We have talked to our staff about it. We know that pressures on the delivery suite can make it slightly more challenging. If we know delivery suite's really busy, then we highly recommend babies are weighed as quickly as possible, and then the baby's put on and then it's given a chance to go through. Ideally, they're not moved at stage 5 and 6, they're moved really early on. So that's a little bit about skin to skin. So thinking about any of you who are watching who haven't yet had your babies, that first hour of skin to skin is really great start to feeding. We've got a video about that. I probably was less eloquent than I have been about it then. When we did our videos, we all felt like rabbits in the headlamps, and so they don't come across brilliantly, but we do get the information across. So that's useful, but also remember that skin to skin is a fabulous thing to do, even when you've had, later on. If you're having a few breastfeeding problems, I've spoken to a couple of mums this week whose babies are struggling to attach, who are getting a little bit grumpy at the breast. It's like a reset. Put your babies back skin to skin, not at a time when they're desperately hungry. You want to keep the breast as a sort of a positive place. So if you've got a baby that's at the breast and screaming and crying, that's not going to really help. We want a baby that is happy. So find times between feeds when your baby's not desperately hungry to put them there, and remind them that this is a really nice place to be. This is where the milk comes from. And actually, if you're not putting any pressure on that baby to feed, they're much more likely to think, okay, I'll give it a go. I'll work my way over there. I'll attach. So just by putting them on the chest and leaving them there slightly below the breast, then they might just work their way over and start to feed. Well, Jessica, you're the only one who's put anything up, unless I've missed it. If anyone else has put a question up and I've missed it, let me know. I'm just going to refresh the page just in case. So I think not. I don't think we've got any other questions. So, but I can see we've still got people with us. So if you've got any questions, let me know. It'd be really useful to know, where are you listening from? Have you had your babies already, so I can target this well? If you're listening to this and you've got a baby that's 6 months, we could be chatting a little bit about introducing solid foods, or older. We could be talking about that. So perhaps just give me a shout out. Let me know where you're all listening from and how old your baby is if you've had it, or if you haven't had your baby, how many weeks pregnant you are. And where you're having your baby, bear in mind I'm sitting up here on level 7, which is where the Spires is. So, this is our midwifery-led unit in the hospital, which is fabulous. I love working up here because I get to hear the babies being born. So it's really nice. Okay, I can see so Mina's come up. Thank you, Mina, for breaking the silence. Hi, Alex, all is well. I hope all is well. My baby girl is going to be 6 months old at the end of the month. Wow, gosh, that's gone so quick. She's exclusively breastfed and gaining good weight. Can't believe we've made it 6 months. The last month or so, she's been waking up almost every hour at night, up to 5 to 6 in the morning, which is when she might sleep 2 to 3 hours straight. She does actively drink every time she wakes up at night. During the day, she can go a couple of hours without feeding. Is this normal? People say babies should mostly sleep through the night by now. Are we doing something wrong? Is my supply enough for my baby? Now that fits in perfectly with what I was chatting about earlier about babies. That sometimes, you know, that the lady who'd asked, the mother had asked about a baby sleeping for 5 hours, and I said don't expect it necessarily to continue. This is really common. As you get nearer the 6 months, it is so common that babies start rousing a little bit more, Mina. We often hear that. We would normally suggest that you try and introduce helps, but remember, feeding is much more than just... Oops, sorry, we lost you there. Hope I didn't disappear for too long. I can see I've frozen on the screen. They like to check in that you're there. It is really, really common for babies to be awake, you know, to be still rousing and feeding quite a lot at this age. I know some people will say they should be sleeping through the night, but actually, you know what? Babies still have very immature brains. They haven't got the capacity to go long periods of time for numerous reasons, physiological, anatomical, you know, nutritional. So there are lots of reasons. No, you're doing absolutely nothing wrong. Keep meeting her needs. It will get better. It really will get better. When people say, oh, babies feed, you know, will sleep through the night. This is a breastfed babies. Breastfed babies feed frequently. That is all part of it. And what you're doing, Nina, is you're protecting your baby. If you think about the risks of sudden infant death, and I know that's a subject that's really hard to talk about, but actually a baby that is rousing frequently is a baby that's much less at risk of sudden infant death. A baby who does not fall into a really, really deep sleep, which is where breastfeeding protects against sudden infant death, is a baby who is rousable, who is, you know, is less likely to have any problems. So you're doing a fantastic job on so many levels. It will ease up, it will get better, and I wouldn't expect her to be sleeping through the night. And I can tell you now, as a mother myself, mine certainly did not sleep through the night for a lot longer than 5 to 6 months. So, you know, it's really, really common. But the wonderful thing is, and I know this sounds hard work, but actually, as a breastfeeding mother, you get more sleep, the research has shown, than if you were formula feeding, because a mother who's formula feeding has to get up and make the feeds and go back, and then they haven't got the hormones that are released, which you release when you're breastfeeding, to help you go back to sleep. So your body's geared up for this feeding, and it helps you go back to sleep quicker. So what they found when they did research into mothers who were formula feeding and breastfeeding is the mother who was breastfeeding actually gets about 45 minutes more sleep a night. And I know that's no small thing when it comes to, you know, sort of, you know, nights. I know when nights are so broken, 45 minutes is fabulous. We're all grateful for an extra 45. So 45 minutes more sleep at night than a mother who would be bottle feeding is what was found on average. So you are doing a brilliant job. Keep going, Mina. Things will get better. And she's just checking in on you. And well done for getting to 6 months. You've done an amazing job. Absolutely brilliant. They were lovely. I love having feedback. We really do. It's one of the things about it in here. Oh, and I put a request out last week and nobody came back. I don't know if any of you are interested. I was asked by the Ready for Parenthood, which is a social media campaign that's going on in the southeast of England, for any mothers who are breastfeeding who would be happy to be videoed. It's not the breastfeeding, they want the interview. They want to talk to you about your breastfeeding journey. It's only going to be a short video, a couple of minutes. Obviously take a bit longer to film it, because it always does, and then they'll edit it. But if any of you out there are listening and thinking, I wouldn't mind talking about my breastfeeding journey, then contact me, get in touch, let me know, because I am looking for somebody. Otherwise I'm going to have to go and start phoning people up. But if you think, yeah, I'd quite like to do that, and I'd like to be part of a social media campaign about feeding, and then let me know. That would be brilliant. Taya has said, 33 plus 5 weeks and haven't had a birthing plan made yet, but I've added to my list for skin to skin. What would you suggest for delayed clamping? If everything's going well and the birth has gone brilliantly, yes, delayed clamping. And I think you'll find most of our midwives will do that anyway. You know, I think that's very much when I first started as a student midwife, and I know that probably sounds like it would have been a long time ago, but actually I only qualified 12 years ago. I was a bit of a late starter. Not everyone was doing delayed cord clamping, that came a bit later. So during my training, it became more and more common to do delayed cord clamping. You know, we know that the baby benefits from much more, a lovely surge of blood into their body, and it's really beneficial. So yes, I think put delayed cord clamping on there, but I would think it a bit like skin to skin these days. You know, we are really good at doing the skin to skin. What we're perhaps not so good about is the uninterrupted. Immediate will happen. It's the uninterrupted is the bit that we need to really protect. So I think both of those things would happen quite normally, but do put them down, because that just reminds the midwife who's caring for you. And certainly when I was a delivery suite midwife, I would meet a couple and I would get their birth preferences out, and we'd go through them together and see what they want, and I would see how could I facilitate them to meet as many of their birth preferences as possible. You know, the reason that we tend to use the word preferences, not plan, is not everything goes to plan, as you know. It's not straightforward. Things do change, the situation changes, and we have to, you know, to modify what we're doing. But we try and meet people's preferences as much as we can. So I think that, you know, pop it on. I definitely think that would be well worth it. But in a way, I almost think you probably, you know, that will happen anyway. But it's still worth stating. 33 plus 5, that's very exciting. So, you know, you'll have the 36-week scan, and at 34 weeks you should have a conversation with your community midwife, and you should all be having this conversation about feeding at your 36-week scan. And now I know it's going to be back to front. Apologies for that. One day I'll photocopy it and do it back to back. This is the copy of Blue Notes that you've all got. All our mummies in Oxfordshire get these sort of notes, as you know. And as you're aware, you've got the first page, which has got all your personal details. And then we have the schedule of appointments. And if you look at 34 weeks on your schedule of appointments, it says, flip you all around, at 34 weeks, it says, discuss and sign parenting and infant feeding antenatal conversations. So that's a conversation you should be having with your midwife at the 34-week appointment. So it's this page, and if you look through, it goes your pull-out page, you know, the big one that they write on, and then it goes the Tommy's page, and then it goes to promoting normal birth, and then this is the infant feeding page. It's sort of a maroony colour, as you can see. So it's parenting and infant feeding antenatal conversation, and it's a little checklist to have a chat with your midwife. Have a read, be aware of it before your appointment next week, and so you can have a chat about it. So your midwife should be able to support you to help make an informed decision. Now, what we're not looking for is a decision now, because we don't know, you don't know how you're going to feel when that baby arrives. So we try to ask parents to keep an open mind about feeding, so that they don't make a distinct decision. So mothers who might show a preference for formula feeding, we might say to them, well, see how you feel on the day, because you may feel differently. And as I said to you, it's instinctive feeding for babies. So if they're put on the mother and then they attach, some mothers have been known to change their mind. Have a read around, look at some of the information that's available. But the Baby Friendly Initiative, if you put in UNICEF Baby Friendly Initiative online, there's a whole load of videos and some really lovely information, including stuff about skin to skin, that would be really helpful for you. And it'll help you have that conversation with your community midwife and ask any questions. So Taya, thank you very much for letting me know that you're 33 plus 5 and about the delayed clamping, which I would definitely, as long as everything's gone well, would definitely be recommending. Mina's come back and said thank you so much for the reassurance, and that's all you need, isn't it? You know, unfortunately sometimes you just need someone to say to you, you're doing a fab job, because we still are a culture where many people are formula feeding, and certainly when you're getting closer and closer to 6 months, there are many more babies that are formula fed. Babies that are formula fed do go into a deeper sleep than breastfed babies, but that's not always a positive. So, you know, from that point of view, you are doing a brilliant, brilliant job. Right, Stephanie said, hello, my daughter's almost 7 months. We've just stopped breastfeeding. She hasn't been having night feeds for about 2 months. She sleeps from 9 p.m. to 8:30 in the morning. Don't tell everybody. And usually has 4 8-ounce bottles during the day and has solids for breakfast and tea. Do you have any suggestions for finger foods for baby-led weaning? Oh gosh, where do we start? Avocado, that's a good one. It's great fats in avocado. So all sorts of finger vegetables that you can have, so parboiled, so they're going to fall apart. I would have a look online at some of the, I'm just wondering if I've got anything here. We've always had it in the past about the introducing complementary foods. They're a really good website to have a look at when you're, for mothers that are thinking about formula feeding or needing to formula feed, and then introducing, for all mums, introducing solid food, is First Steps Nutrition. Literally as it sounds, First Steps Nutrition. It's a brilliant website. I'm just looking to see if I've got one of the introducing solid food books. They all look the same, but they're not the right ones. No, I haven't got it, I'm sorry. So there are loads of resources out there. Your health visitor would be a really, really good person to go to. It's anything that the baby can more or less pick up and isn't too hard, and they can have a little chew on. So things like that. But do remember, Stephanie, that right up to 1, milk is the main source of nutrition. So any other food your baby's getting is a bonus. So right up to 1, the main nutrition your baby gets is from the milk that you're giving your baby. So we would often suggest that you start with a milk feed and then offer other foods. So they have milk first and then they have the other foods as they do it. As my colleague Hannah coined it, food before 1 is just for fun. And Charlotte's not on here today, our lovely Charlotte with her baby Alicia Jasmine. She'll often put that on here, that food before 1 is just for fun. So remembering that, having lots of milk is the main driver for nutrition and growth in the first year, right up to the first year. And remembering that you only need to use first stage formula milk. You do not need to go on to follow-on milk, hungrier milk, colic milk. They are all marketing ploys. You can stay on the first stage formula milk all the way up to a year. There is no benefit in having any of the others, Stephanie. So I'm not the expert on weaning foods, but completely exactly which ones to try, but I can signpost you to Public Health England weaning leaflet, and also First Steps Nutrition, which is really good too. So have a look at some of those resources. They are really, really good. And for the next time, I will ensure, because I've got lots of them, I'll ensure I've got the leaflet so I can speak a little bit more comprehensively about what you could be trying. But it's great fun. Make it colourful, make it a lovely colourful palette. They love colour, and that's one of the things First Steps Nutrition picked up on, is that most of the food that you buy, so baby prepared foods, they have lovely colourful packaging, but the food itself is all bland colours. Babies love the colour, so make sure that when you're putting food out on your baby's tray, that actually you've got a nice array of fun colours and textures, and the baby will enjoy the visual sight of it, and that putting it to their mouths. So that will all help and make it fun, food fun. After all, we like a nice looking piece of food. How many of these programmes do we watch? When you look at the presentations, half of it, if not more. So same for your babies. Good luck with it, Stephanie. It's a fun time. Messy, but fun. Ty's come back, thank you. I'll definitely have a read through. Breastfeeding is a definite choice, but trying to keep an open mind if needed. I think, Ty, the other thing to think about is you've grown a baby. I always say this to mummies, you've grown a baby, your body has grown a baby. Don't underestimate your body's ability to feed your baby. But if you know, lots of mums will tell you, and then we have a few of them on here, it's not always easy, but access help. Get help as soon as possible. If things are not going well, access help. So make the most of being, within the midwifery care. So if you're on the wards, make the most of the help that you can get. When you're discharged, make the most of your community midwives. Access the support, like we've already mentioned, the Oxfordshire Breastfeeding Support, Abingdon Breastfeeding Cafe, La Leche League, and us here at the Infant Feeding Team. We're all here to support you and get things off to a good start. So do make the most of it. And knowing as much as you can before you have your baby will really help. I know it's an enormous hurdle. We're all there. As mums, we've all been there. You've got labour in front of you, the labour and the birth, and actually your brain can't get over it. But any reading you can do before about feeding is really, really helpful. Try and get as much information as possible about what to expect, and try and think beyond the birth, because the beyond the birth is for the rest of your life. The birth will pass, it's a period of time. Challenging, I know. Mina's come back. Another point I wanted to check is that Mila is not taking the bottle. We've been casually trying at the weekends, but not pushed it too hard. She might start at nursery in September, and I'm worried if this will cause any problems. Any comments on that? Also, if she starts taking the bottle, will I need to do anything differently to make sure I can express sufficient amounts to send her with? So, Mina, she's 6 months. You could just go straight onto a cup. So have a look at other things other than a bottle. You might find a cup, and actually, if you think about the time scale in Mila's life, from now till September is a hugely long period of time. I mean, we're almost the same again. So babies change very quickly. They're learning all the time. So what's happening now is not going to be happening then. Think about looking at cups, things like a doily cup. Just pop a bit of milk in it or a bit of water in it. Let them start to learn that milk comes out of it. Don't make a song and dance about it. Keep it positive. Everything like this needs to be positive. We don't want negative association. So yes, feed at the breast, and maybe let her play with a cup later and see how she gets on when she's not desperately hungry. In the past, we used, parents were told to get the baby really hungry before you introduce the bottle. The baby will definitely take it. Not necessarily. We meet babies who have real aversion to things. They say, it doesn't work for me, I don't want it, and they get really, really upset. So try and keep things nice and calm and positive. Maybe go and have a chat with some friends, see what cups maybe they're using. But once you've gone to 6 months, you don't need to use a bottle. A cup would be fine of some sort. So as I mentioned, something like a doily cup or any of the soft spout type cups would work, and your baby would just graduate straight onto a cup rather than a bottle. So you don't even skip the bottle phase. See how you get on with that. We've got a few more comments, it's lovely. Jenna, my baby is 4 months old and exclusively breastfed, and I'm looking at starting to introduce formula also, as when I pop out and leave him with his dad, I struggle to pump enough. Would this be okay and not make him poorly? You won't make him poorly, because we're lucky in the UK that it's safe, we can safely give formula milk. The recommendation is to do 6 months exclusive breastfeeding. We know that's got the best health outcomes for babies, trying to postpone introducing other protein, because it's cow's milk protein. With regard to pumping, I mean, you've obviously got enough milk to grow your baby. You've got to 4 months, that's absolutely fantastic. Have you tried pumping in the morning after you fed? So that's the time when most mums have more milk than they need. So feed your baby and try pumping then. Now, I don't know what pump you're using. I thought I couldn't pump, and now I know so much about pumping. I've been a pump agent before. I was an NCT breastfeeding counsellor, and I was talking to one of the mums in clinic today, and this is how we got to the subject of NCT and her NCT group. So that's where I come from. My background is NCT. So 20 odd years ago, I was a member of the NCT, and I was lucky enough to have a fantastic branch. I lived in Surrey at the time, and that's why I ended up becoming a breastfeeding counsellor. So thinking about, my brain's gone blank. I can't remember where I was going with this. Pumping. So yeah, so that NCT, and then I ended up becoming a pump agent as well. So I learned a lot more about pumps, which has been superb with my work, and doing now. And certainly I'm the one who organised the pumps in the hospital, etc. So from a pumping point of view, if you're using a hand pump, and that's what I remember trying to use, and I was flipping rubbish at it because I didn't know how to use it. Now what I haven't got is a hand pump here, sadly. If you had a hand pump, I don't know what, if you are using one, we're always thinking about what would the baby do. So if you had a pump, had it on, let's say you've got a hand pump, you've got it here, and you've got the handle, you're going to do quick, 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 and then hopefully you'll start to see milk. And once you see milk, you bring your hand in and you hold it, and you'll see milk dripping, and you let go, and then you go again, and you'll see milk dripping. And now this is what nobody told me. So I carried on doing this and wondered why I never got any milk, but had enough milk to feed my babies. So if that's what you're doing, you're using a hand pump, that's what we'd be recommending you do. So it's get the pump kit on, quick, 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 which is the equivalent of what the baby does when they start. As soon as you start seeing the milk beading on the nipple, in and hold, keep it, keep it, keep it, keep it, release. In and hold, keep it, keep it, keep it, keep it, keep it, release. In and hold, and you'll see it coming. The milk will start to come, and while it's coming, you keep in the hold, because that's the vacuum. When it releases, when it starts to tail off, you let go, go again. You do one breast, you'll do the other, because you're guided by the flow. You'll do this one till you get no more, then you'll go to the other side till you get no more. Go back, go back, go back, go back. So aiming to do each side 3 times if you're using a hand pump. If you're using an electric pump and it has the facility to change the cycles, you're going to do exactly the same. That's what we're always aiming to do, is that you are doing quick, 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 quick at the beginning. So it's quick, 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 and then pause, long, deep, successive pauses. So I was chatting to a mum this morning using a pump, and her pump has got cycles and vacuum. Lots of pumps do. If your pump has cycles and vacuum, you start with quick cycles, so it's going quick, 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 and lowish vacuum. The minute you start seeing milk come, you drop your cycles right down, really slow, up the vacuum to wherever's comfortable. For instance, the Spectra, that will do that, the Ardo and the Amida. So the Ardo Calypso, the Amida Lactoline and the Spectra all do that. So if you have the option to change the cycles and the vacuum, that's what you're aiming to do. Pump while you see milk. If you're double pumping, you pump while you see milk. As soon as it begins to slow or stop, 30-second break, get that pump going again, because you'll get a bit more. When it begins to slow or stop, get that pump on, get it going again. So you're pumping each time 3 times. If you've got a single pump, you'll do 1 breast to get no more, this side, backwards, back, being guided by the flow. So I'm saying all of this, Jenna, because you've said, you know, you've managed to exclusively breastfeed your baby for 4 months. Would be a shame to compromise it just because maybe the pump hasn't worked for you as yet. I'd have another go with that pump and see how you get on. If you're struggling, we're very happy to have a chat with you on the phone about pumping. But you know, if it's just for the occasional bottle, then I'm sure you'd be able to get the milk. As I say, most mothers have more milk than they need in the morning, and so that's when often they'll get some milk, and then that can be used later in the day to give you that break, so his daddy can give a feed. See how you get on, Jenna, and get in touch if you're struggling. Oh, right, Jenna's now also said he sleeps from 10 till 5 and has a feed and then sleeps 8 AM. Is that normal? Only 1 feed at night. As long as he's growing and it's not impacting on your supply, then that's absolutely fine. So, if it's impacting on your supply, and again, I would say he's 4 months, and we just heard, haven't we, from Mina, who was saying that her baby's now started waking more often. That may very well happen to you too, so that's very common. So don't be surprised if he starts waking a little bit more. That's very, very normal. And remember, it isn't bad, it's good, it's protecting them. So he does sleep well, doesn't he? 10 till 5. There's some really good sleepers on this chat today. So there's going to be some very jealous mummies out there who aren't getting really good sleepers. Mine were rubbish. And they're still rubbish. All my kids don't sleep well, even now as adults. Anyway, Stephanie said, thank you, we're still using first infant milk. Brilliant. I'm so glad that message is getting through, because we know that it's a hard push. You know, it's that whole, those adverts, isn't it, where they're saying, you know, when you're ready to move on. No, you don't need to move on. You don't need to move on from breast milk, and you don't need to move on to a different type of formula if you're using formula. So brilliant. We're using a mix of purees which she self-feeds and also some finger foods. Brilliant. You're covering all bases. That's really, really good. Amina said thank you. Stephanie said, and we also offer bottle first then, and an hour or so later she has solids. Brilliant. Yeah, as long as she's getting enough of the fluids, that's fabulous, because that's where her nutrition is coming from, Stephanie. That's great. Oh, Jenna, you said, update from Jenna. I know I can pump as I donated a huge amount to NICU, but now I struggle to get enough. Oh, well, all I can say, Jenna, first off, is a huge thank you to you for donating. We just adore it. We love the fact that we have enough milk to service our neonatal unit. So that's where all the milk that people like Jenna give goes into our neonatal unit. So we have because we have a human milk bank here at the John Radcliffe, one of the first in the country. There are more now, but not all hospitals have a milk bank. And we supply hospitals all around in a huge area, Reading, right down to Poole, all over. So, you know, we are quite special. But we're also so lucky because of people like Jenna who are so generous, that actually we often have it on the wards. And many of you who've had your babies in the last couple of years may have benefited from donated breast milk, and in fact we've done so well recently that we have on occasion been able to give mothers a little bit if they're going home and they haven't quite made enough. We've been able to give them a little bit to tide them over while their supply goes up, and so that we can keep babies human milk exclusive, because we just know it's better for the baby's outcomes, you know, for their long-term health, because this is what you're doing. This is your baby's long-term health. What you're doing now with your fabulous feeding, all of you, is setting these babies up for when right into their 70s and 80s and 90s. You know, what you're doing now will have an impact then, and we are, you know, you're putting such an amazing investment into your children's lives that they will, you know, be rightly grateful for. But Jenna, I wonder why you can't pump now. That's really, I wonder at what point you were pumping. I would think if you just keep, personally, I think that if you keep asking for it, and maybe after each feed in the morning, it'll start to build up again. It would be a shame when you've been the one who's donating for you to give formula milk before 6 months. So maybe just try again and see how you get on. Just keep asking the body in the morning. If your body is used to making it, your body can make it again. I've just been talking to a member of staff on the main hospital site about a mother who's in because her baby is unwell. So she's in because she's unwell and the baby's at home, and she's worried about her supply. And if you've already built a supply up, then you should be able to build it back up again. Now, what I know, she has a 2-year-old too. Perhaps I'm stressed. Maybe you are. Maybe you are. I don't know what that window in the morning is like, because that's often a difficult time with tots. You know, I don't know if your 2-year-old is going to nursery or anything. Maybe if they do go to nursery, that's your opportunity. Drop them in the nursery, quickly pump afterwards. But it is usually the morning when most mums will get both chance. If you're trying in the evening, maybe when your toddler's gone to bed, that's probably your least opportune time to try. Most women find evenings very, very difficult time to pump. Mornings tends to be the best time. Maybe you can find a really good program on television if they don't go to nursery or anything, you know, so that you can do that. So brilliant. Jenna's come back, so she's going to try in the morning. Yeah, it is your most. We do find that is the time. Most mothers have the best results is the morning. It's weird, and if you go around the world, it's so interesting because, you know, we have a Western view on things, and when I was studying to become a lactation consultant, we were reading about how most people in the Western world have more milk than they need in the mornings, and if you go to other parts of the world, they tend to be the ones that it's in the evenings. It's to do with our feeding patterns during the day and the way that we live our lives. So it isn't total human mammals like that. It's the way that we live our lives influences the way that our milk supplies are established. So it is very interesting. But, brilliant. Well, gosh, this is better than last week. Last week we got to 45 minutes, so we'd run out of steam, and we had loads of lovely questions and everything. And I can see there's still quite a lot of people watching, which is great. So, any further questions? I've missed Charlotte this week. I know she said she was going to get a job, but didn't realise it was this soon. Oh no, she was going to Devon. I remember. She was off to Devon. She was going to see her mother. And so, any further questions from you all? It's been so nice, all the input from the lot of you, from Jenna and Stephanie and Mina. It's been fabulous, and Tyre, all the best, Tyre. I think you're the only antenate on this one, and Stephanie. It's been really good, and Jessica started us off. Any further questions from you all? Nope. So I was thinking about whether we could involve our Human Milk Bank coordinator, Amanda Wood, and I was thinking about having a chat with her and see if she fancied joining for one of these sessions. So if you've got any questions about Donated, that might be a good chance to ask those questions. And I'm also going to approach our infant feeding lead for the neonatal unit and see if she would like to be involved too over the next couple of weeks. So hopefully we might have some guests on here as well, rather than just being me. So oh, go for it, Mina. Just got a question. Wait patiently. Don't worry about typing. It's nice. It's nice, worth waiting for, I'm sure. But, I hope you're all going to have a good Easter. We've got lots of Easter eggs coming, and everyone's going to spoil you. So, Tyre's come back and said thank you. Mina said, I've got a lot of frozen milk, which I was thinking to start using during weaning. Yep. That would be great. So you know that frozen milk, you can keep your frozen milk for up to 6 months, so that would be perfect. You can use it to, you know, if you were going to make up any purees or anything, you can add it into purees if that's what you're thinking. I can remember doing the rounds when I was a breastfeeding counsellor. There was a ice cream. So good question. Do you know? I would have thought if it's cooked, if you've cooked it, yes. That's a very good question. Mina has asked, can I refreeze the food if needed? I would have thought if it's cooked, because I mean, if you think about when we do things, you cook it and then freeze it, I would have thought that would be fine. Maybe not if it's not been cooked. So if you're going to make a puree and you've cooked it and you added your milk and then frozen it, I think that would be fine. I can't see why not. If I find out anything different, I will let you know, but I would have thought, because that's usually the rule of thumb when it comes to foods, if you cook them then you can freeze them. I can't imagine why that would be a problem, but if I find out anything different, I will let you know. I can have a chat about that. I don't know if Amanda would know that, but I know what happens with milk banking, and actually that would be very similar thinking about it. So with the milk banking, so I know that Jenna was saying she donated. So what happens with the milk bank is the milk comes in from the mothers, whoever's donating, in bags, and that milk's defrosted. It's then checked for bacteria, so to make sure that it's got a reasonable bacteria count. We know there'll be some, but we don't want too much. It's then pasteurised, checked again, and then frozen. So I can't see why that's any different to you. Maybe if you cooked it and then froze it again. So that would be the same as from the pasteurising point of view. So we do refreeze that, and obviously donated breast milk is all pasteurised and handed out, and actually has a longer shelf life than defrosted mother's milk that's not pasteurised. So when we're handing donated breast milk out, it can be used within 24 hours of defrosting, whereas when we're defrosting a mother's own milk that's not been pasteurised, we request that it's used within 12 hours of being defrosted. So that's interesting. Brilliant. Well, that's something that we can perhaps think about, and I'll maybe approach Amanda and Gillian and see if they'd like to join for these sessions. Thank you very, very much, all of you, for your wonderful questions. I'm going to sign off now because I've got to go back to the wards. So I've got lots of mummies to see on the wards. Got a couple of a pair of twins. Going to see if they'll be good and attached to the breast. Think about your questions for next week. I would love to. I love all the questions. Keep it going because this is for you, as I said, and let your friends know. Make the most of telling other people, because it is a way of accessing infant feeding support and being signposted to where you can get more help very easily. And I know things are still not completely back to what they were, but we can try and offer this as a way of accessing us easily. Thank you all very much. Have a fantastic Easter. Have a really good break. Enjoy yourselves, and I hope you're all being pampered as lovely new mummies or mummies to be. So I'm going to say goodbye now, and I'll see you all next week. Bye.